Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today I'm continuing my testing for the European Legacy Masters tournament in Bologna, although when this video goes out that tournament might have already happened because I'm recording quite far in advance at the moment. So, what are we playing today? We are playing MONOBLACK. I think MONOBLACK is in a very good spot right now because the core cards of Orcish Bowmasters, Reanimate, Grief and Troll of Khazad-dûm are just so strong right now. It's just the best thing you can be doing in Legacy, and why not put it in a MONOBLACK shell, because I do enjoy some MONOBLACK. We've played quite a bit of MONOBLACK on the channel. This is kind of building on from the last couple of lists I've played. I really am enjoying Wasteland in a deck like this because we're kind of playing a prison-esque deck. So we've got Bowmasters, which stops our opponent from drawing cards, or punishes them for drawing cards. We have Dauthi Voidwalker, that stops them from using their graveyard. We have Opposition Agent, that stops them from searching their library. And Sheoldred can also stop them drawing cards, and then we've got the whole Grief, Thoughtseize type stuff, so we can really jam up our opponent's hand. So all of our creatures are stopping our opponent from being able to play the game they want, and they also beat down, so we can win the game whilst our guys are suppressing them. It's kind of like Black Death and Taxes almost. The Troll of Khazad-dûm allows us to run 21 lands here with the 4 Wastelands. We are running 1 Urborg because you don't want to draw multiple at any point, but this can sometimes allow our Wastelands to tap. It might not be necessary, but it's more or less free to run when we have like 12 swamps in the deck. Then we've got, so we're always going to have basics is the plan here, and we can always go fetch more with the Troll. We've got 2 Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I had one last time, it was really good. I thought why not add another? It's just a free way of getting another creature that can attack and is hard to block. Then we've got 2 Castle Locthwain, which again is just not necessarily free in our mana base, but it's not really going to hurt us. So that's the plan. We might get an awkward situation when we have Castle Locthwains and Hive of the Eye Tyrants coming in tapped. And if that's the case, then we need to cut back on them. But this is what we're trying for today to see if that works okay. You may have also noticed we have 1 Palantír. I just wanted a 5th thing we can do with a turn 1 Dark Ritual. So we can turn 1 Dark Ritual into an Oppo Agent, or a Palantír, or some combination of 2-drop, 1-drop, that sort of jam. Or we can save our Dark Ritual for turn 2 and power out a Sheoldred, which can just close a lot of games out in sharp order. We have 4 Reanimates here, which I think might be too many. I think we may be only wanting 3, but again, we're testing it and seeing how it feels, because these will bring back our Trolls that we cycle and our Griefs, so we can do the turn 1 double Thoughtseize off the Grief and then Reanimate it. Also, very good in the world of Thoughtseizing your opponent or Griefing your opponent and just taking their best thing and reanimating it. So that's kind of where we're going. Removal-wise, we have 4 Sheoldred's Edict because it's the most flexible of removal we have here. It can hit Planeswalkers, it can hit creature tokens, it can hit non-token creatures, and it can kind of snipe out a Marit Lage from behind a bunch of other creatures because it's the only token creature they have. So I do like the Sheoldred's Edict, and the fact that it's rarely dead because the decks that tend not to have creatures do have things like Teferi or Minsk and Boo, Narset, that sort of thing, so we at least get some value off of it. And at the end of the day is a black card to pitch to Grief. We're not running Chrome Mox today because I think Chrome Mox and Dark Ritual and Grief is quite a lot of card disadvantage that I don't think we need all of, because we're kind of playing a bit fairer in some respects of just, you know, going up the curve, playing good cards. And we got these Wastelands to go with it. I don't think we need the Chrome Moxes as well. We're not trying to power out Khans, which is not something I've particularly enjoyed a lot in the MONOBLACK strategies. We just have a really solid mana base that was going to cast our spells. We got lots of disruptive elements, and we're kind of going to get there. Well, that's the plan at least. I would say there's some flex slots in this deck. I think the 3rd Sheoldred, the Palantír, the Reanimate, and probably the 4 Sheoldred's Edict. These are all flex slots, as well as the 2 extra utility lands we're running. Those are kind of the flex slots that I'm trying to sort of tease out and see if we need. Arguably, the Urborg can be a flex slot as well. Quick talk about the sideboard. 4 Plague Engineers, and we need to get little creatures gone, because this also makes our main deck removal of Sheoldred's Edict better. We've got 3 Hymns of Tourach, we need to dodge white removal. He's going to be really handy for that. We've got 2 Null Rods for all these artifact decks. Another reason why I didn't want to run the Chrome Mox. So this can stop Storm decks quite nicely, as well as the One Ring decks. Damping Sphere, this shuts down Creative Technique decks immediately. It's very good against Storm. It certainly has some use against some of the Stompy decks too, and the One Ring decks. So we've got some nice tools there. 1 Cursed Totem. This is something I like against the sort of the toolboxy Newton Elves or the Abzan Depths type builds. just being able to shut down Reclaimers and Knights in one card is really strong. And also Fiend Artisan too. Then we have 3 pieces of Graveyard Hate in the form of Surgical. I like Surgical more than Leyline because it has other functionality. So at the moment, if you want to Thoughtseize a combo player, you might be able to strip something important and just expose a weakness in their deck by extracting them. And we have enough discard that I think that's a reliable plan to do in those matchups. So that's the sideboard, and that's the sort of thinking where I am. This is one of my short list of things to play at the European Legacy Masters Invitational. So we're going to jump into it and see how we do. Before we do though, remember to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to, check out the Patreon and the Discord in the description below. And message me if you like a donation deck on the channel. Alright, let's play some Mono Black in Legacy. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Our hand doesn't really have any threats here. We'd be trying to reanimate off of our opponent's hand. I don't think that's worth doing, so we're going to mulligan this one. Alright, this is better. This is a turn to Sheoldred here. We can keep this. We can probably throw back, I would say, a basic Swamp. Now we have to decide what land we're playing. Do we want to make ourselves Wasteland proof, or do we want to race this Sheoldred? A Delver of Secrets. Interesting. That does ask an interesting question here. We don't really want to get Wastelanded here, so I think we play out the Swamp. If we're worried about days, then we probably want to go slightly slower here. Because once the Sheoldred gets into play, it's probably going to be a complete warp on the game. So I think we'll play out Hive of the Eye Tyrant this time. And then we can use that to Sheoldred's Edict on our opponent's turn and maybe get a days out. So we're going to throw this to the wolves, hopefully. Let's see what our opponent drops here. I'm expecting our opponent to be Grixis. There it is. There's the red. And there's a Channeler. And we got a follow-up Ponder. Pretty strong. So we just need to expend our opponent's resources to make sure that we get our Sheoldred into play. So we can fire off an Edict. And then the next turn we can fire off another one. Or we can deploy the Sheoldred depending on what we think is going to work. And also the amount of pressure that we're under at the time. They did not shuffle their library. So they're going to flip their Delver next turn. Orcish Bowmasters. That's a very good one here. I think this is worth casting now. This will get days out of our opponent's hand if they have one. Best to do it before they untap. Right, we'll ping down the Channeler. I think it's scary even though we know the Delver's flipping. This just gives them so much selection moving forward. It makes it much easier to power out Murktides and potentially multiple Murktides. No days on the Bowmasters is interesting. That suggests to me that they don't have a days. They revealed a Brainstorm. That's certainly one worth keeping on top. And we can't really discern much about our opponent's hand. Right, so they're going to play a Bowmasters as well. Bowmasters, not that good against us. It pings down our Bowmasters and that's it. Whereas our Bowmasters stops all their cantrips. There's a Bauble. I wonder if the top card of their library... So they got the Brainstorm. They had the Orc ready to go. Can we get away with playing a Sheoldred right now? We can play a Sheoldred around a days here. So I think we try that. It's just so backbreaking if it resolves. I think maybe they wouldn't have countered the Orc army. It's tough to say. Let's try the Sheoldred out. Alright, we're in with the Sheoldred. And then we just pass. We don't need to attack him. So now we are in a commanding position because Sheoldred just absolutely warps games, which is what our deck wants to do. Play creatures that warp the game to some extent. Red Mana, is this going to be a Lightning Bolt? What do they have? They could have Unholy Heat here. No, if they're attacking with just the Delver, it's probably not a Lightning Bolt or something. Okay, so they clearly don't have the thing here. So let's play another Bowmasters. Let's ping off. Do I care about their Bowmasters? If we ping their Orc army and they have a Bowmasters, then we haven't really got anywhere. So now we can attack with this. So if they play this, they can ping this for 1. I think we just attack with our Orc army and let the Sheoldred be more likely to survive here. It's going to be a Bowmasters. Yep, so they could put 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. Okay, so they might have still been short on the Sheoldred. Alright, so they're pinging down our Bowmasters. So we let this resolve. You can sacrifice a creature token, please. Now what are you going to do? If they can't shift this Sheoldred, then it's going to be lights out for them eventually, because We're taking 1 a turn, they're taking 2 at this rate. Okay, so they played a Volcanic Island. They didn't have a Volcanic Island last time. They didn't play a land, so I believe that means that they drew the Volcanic Island. We have another piece of removal in hand. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. Land, sorcery, creature, artifact. If we have an Unholy Heat, it is lethal on our Sheoldred. But they would do that before we go to our draw step and gain life. Okay, a Dark Ritual. Not a very exciting one. Although 3, 4, 5 mana. This is 4 to activate. We need 6 mana to do all of these things. So how are we attacking here? Are we just Sheoldred's Edicting and seeing what they sacrifice? I think that's probably where to start, and that can inform how we're going to attack this turn. Okay. So we attack with this. If we attack with this, what is the worst that can happen? 3 mana. I'm just trying to work out how our Sheoldred dies if we attack with it here. Have a Bowmasters, that doesn't do it. Because I'll have 1, 2, 3 damage. I think we can attack with the Sheoldred here. If they have an Unholy Heat, it kills it anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Alright, they just took a big hit, and they're going to take some more here. Just doing the things we do. I quite like Mono Black into Delver as a thing, which is why it's one of my things to use. Now, Delver do get to select their draws. But basically, most of our cards are hits. Sure. So we can drain them out from behind this. And if they ever attack with it, they're in trouble. If they attack with 2 creatures, then we Hive the Eye Tyrant our way in. Right, our opponent has seen that. So now if our Hive the Eye Tyrant attacks, it will grow their Murktide. But again, we have lethal damage coming in the near future. So we got 5, 6, 7, 8. We can just hold back. If they attack with their Murktide, they're going to die. If they attack with their Murktide, they have to have a bunch of stuff. Have to have like a string of lightning bolts here. Right, so they're coming in with both of these. 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, they're coming with just the Murktide. So they do not have double lightning bolts. Understood, opponent. Let's deploy another creature. Just gain some life. A Wasteland. Let's play out our Wasteland. Let's hit their Black Source and see if that gets any action. See if they spend this mana on anything. Alright, so we can attack with a whole bunch of creatures here. Let's cast a Dark Ritual. Let's activate this. Let's go to attacks. 3, 4. So the lightning bolt. We can get killed here. Just send all these in, and that'll make. So we have to get rid of one of these, which is annoying. It's going to grow their Murktide, but they've got lethal Sheoldred trigger. We don't want to block here in case they have lightning bolt, and they can block and bolt. All right, so we got the game there. So what is nice here? I quite like Plague Engineers on Orc or Human, depending on the situation. What do I not like in our deck? I do not like Opposition Agent very much. So I think that's a straight 4 for 4 cut, in my opinion. And I don't think we need to do anything else here. You could play Surgical Extractions, but I think that's pretty loose. The Tourach, again, is quite expensive to try and get it to do anything. I just think Plague Engineers over Opposition Agent is sensible here. Simple. Like, we might be able to catch something like a Troll or a Lorien Revealed with an Opposition Agent. But a 3 mana 2/2 that does something when it comes into play is much better, in my opinion. And if we get it out early, it just stops all their aggro until that creature dies. And it can trade with, well, doesn't get to trade with very much, but it can attack into a Murktide and force it to block. But mainly just shredding their little creatures is really potent. It means if they Murktide away food that would be fueling a Dragon's Rage Channeler, that Channeler will die due to our Plague Engineer. I just think it's a better card in this matchup. I wonder what removal our opponent has brought in. How much they have. What do we have here? It's a little slow. I'm not going to lie. It's a bit on the slow side. And this Reanimate is potentially a dead card. It doesn't mean we can run a Sheoldred into counter spells and then get it back later. I think we will give this a go. We can lead out on Swamp and we can play Bowmasters on 2. If our Bowmaster gets countered, we can then rebuy our Bowmasters and it should be very good. So if they Bowmasters our Bowmasters, we then get to Bowmasters their Bowmasters that Bowmastered our Bowmaster. Yep, that's legacy right now. Okay, our opponent's going first. Are they going to go for a threat or a cantrip first? Right, so they're cracking a Misty Rainforest. Sure. And a Ponder. They shuffle their library off the Ponder, so that's pretty good for us to begin with. They got 3 types in their graveyard already, so Doing alright. Okay, so we could go for a grief hand here. But what would we be pitching is the question. If we grief, we're probably pitching the Sheoldred here, even though it was really good in the last game. But it's just having double grief better. Or are we just wastelanding, resetting the game, and hoping our opponent doesn't roll into more stuff? I don't think that's a great line. We could grief pitching Reanimate, and then maybe draw into Reanimate later. I don't think we want to pitch to the Bowmasters. I think it has to be the Sheoldred here. Let's try this. See what our opponent's working with. They didn't store any cards on top with their Ponder because they shuffled it. So they didn't get an opportunity to hide something they wanted to draw the following turn. What do we have here? A Force of Will, an Orcish Bowmasters, Brainstorm. I guess we take the Force of Will here and then the Brainstorm. Or are we taking the Murktide because that's going to be a harder thing for us to answer with our hand as it stands? Yeah, I can dig that. So we take the Murktide, we don't have to worry about that now. We have their Bowmasters covered with our Bowmasters. There's the Brainstorm. They're probably getting rid of their Wasteland, but they're going to keep their Misty Rainforest and their Bowmasters here. I think they're going to want... Like, Bowmasters isn't great, though. Found a Bauble. Cracking the Bauble. Sure. Have an extra card. We don't have the mana to do anything exciting with that. A Reanimate, you say? Could Reanimate a Murktide, but I don't think that's where I want to be here. We'll just play out this Swamp and we'll go to attacks. We don't need to play out the Bowmasters yet. If our opponent plays the Bowmasters, that's good for us. Alright, so shuffling away those cards, presumably one of them is a Wasteland. If they don't play a land this turn, alright, so they're going to Lightning Bolt our Grief. We can bring that back if we want to. 3 cards left in our opponent's hand. I think one of them is a Bowmasters. Sheoldred's Edict. Interesting. Let's get back our Grief and see what they're working with. This might force the Bowmasters out of their hand, which allows us to then Bowmasters them. A Brainstorm. Okay. They're protecting their hand. If we'd have played a land first, we might have been able to Bowmaster in response to this and get a really good turn going there. But I also wanted to see our opponent's hand before deciding if we needed to Wasteland or not. So it's kind of... There's an over and an under on whether or not we play out the land first. Right, let's see what you're working with their opponent. There is a Lightning Bolt. Still get to strip a card from their hand though. Ponder, Daze, Force of Will. Okay. If we take the Daze, and they have to do a 2-for-1 to try and get this Ponder going. If they want to stop our Bowmasters. So I don't hate that. I think we play out a Wasteland here and pass. So we've got 1 card on top of their library that they're drawing now from their Brainstorm. Is it a blue card? I do not know. They did not fire off their Ponder here. That's interesting to me. We can take out their red source. This will force their Bowmasters into play, and then on our turn we can Bowmasters and get rid of their Forcible Ponder. Yeah, there's the Bowmasters. So we know the 2 cards in their hand. Are they willing to... Are we supposed to just Sheoldred's Edict away their guys? Or are we supposed to Bowmasters them and get rid of their 2 cards? We know they don't have a Daze. Short play this one out. Let's just cast our guy. Yep, so here's the Ponder Force of Will. A nice little hint to Tourach there, and we've got 2 Sheoldred's Edicts to clean these up if we need to. Our opponent has 1 card on the top of their library, and I believe they know what it is from the Brainstorm earlier. Yep, we'll take 2. We've got a little bit of life total to work with. Not a lot, but... Alright, a Wasteland. I will very much be Wastelanding my opponent here. And we'll pass a turn. Doesn't really matter which one dies here. Say no to their creatures. This is a great spot for a Plague Engineer. So now we take 1. Next turn we can kill this if we have to. Our opponent's missing land drops. Troll of Khazad-dûm. I think we will cycle this so we have 4 lands to cast a Sheoldred if we draw one. And I think that means... Does it mean we're supposed to cycle now or hold it? If we cycle now, we put it into play, and then what? Then we can draw a Castle Locthwain next turn? Yes, that makes sense. Let's do it off our Urborg, because that's the one that can get Wastelanded. Let's Swamp Cycle. Not something we really want to reanimate at this point either. So let's get a basic Swamp. Play our basic Swamp. Go to our opponent's turn. We can kill this on our opponent's turn. Alright, they played a land. I think we can take 1 here in case they play a second main phase creature. I would rather hit something like a Delver or a DRC. Each opponent sacrifices a creature token. Not the ideal way of using Sheoldred's Edict, but needs must sometimes. I Castle Locthwain. So one of the things that we said we could do, we've just done that. We can draw a card right now before our opponent has any chance at Bowmasters. I think that's fine. We are helping our opponent with black mana with this Urborg. Another troll. Okay, so if we draw a land, we can just get a troll into play. And that will bash our opponent up pretty good. Alright, ponder. That's fine. If we get a Reanimate, it's probably bringing back a Bowmasters at this point. If we draw a land, we have a troll. If we don't draw a land, we have a spell. Right, that's a spell. I'll cast it. Lightning Bolt and Orcish Bowmasters. Which of these worries me most? Probably the Lightning Bolt, to be honest. We're on 6. We don't want to just run a Lightning Bolt. A 3-2 can hold back the Orcs pretty effectively. There's a ponder. Okay, so they are looking for a land. Any land does it because we have the Urborg in play. Did not find the land, so we get to bash for 3 this turn. Alright, let's do that. Bash and ahoy. Play this. We can get snagged by Daze here, but I don't think our opponent would be trying to keep Dazes off of a ponder here. Alright. We have a very large lad here. It swings for lethal and... Okay, it's going to be a Murktide that's lethal, right? So this is potentially an issue for us. How big is this one going to be? An 8-8. Okay, so we attack for 9 here. We need to find something. So I think we have to draw a card here. A Plague Engineer. That shrinks this to a 7, but that's not good enough, is it? I don't think our opponent's going to mess this one up from this position. And they're going to attack here. They don't have any other choice either. Alright. Back to sideboarding again. We get to be on the play. That's a lot better for us. I'm pretty happy with how we sideboarded. Maybe we were a bit angsty about using that second Sheoldred's Edict. Taking 1 a turn we could probably do for a few more turns. You do want to leave the token in play against this deck. Just so your other Sheoldred's Edicts can hit the Murktide as a general rule. What does our hand do here? We've got a Bowmasters. We've got a Troll. We can cast a turn 2 Sheoldred or a turn 1 Bowmasters. Either way, I'm on board. Sheoldred, Bowmasters, Troll. What a lovely selection of cards here. So I think we lead out with a Swamp here. I think we're probably going to just cycle the Troll this turn. Just so we can secure our land drops for later on without having to play this Urborg. Also puts a nice creature in the bin if we want to reanimate. Polluted Delta from our opponent. We're going to see a threat here. If we see a threat, we can Orcish Bowmasters it. A Brainstorm on turn 1. That is the juiciest thing. Let's cast a Dire Ritual. Let's cast a Bowmasters. With 1 floating to pay for days. And we still have the 1 mana to use in our Troll. Force of Will. We'll cycle this. Just being efficient with our mana. So we use 2 cards to put the Bowmasters on the stack. Our opponent used 2 cards. So it's kind of an even trade there. It does delay our Sheoldred, but I think that Brainstorm is just too juicy. I think we have to fire off a Wasteland if we get one. Pretty happy with the Dauthi Voidwalker here though. That can make Murktide a problem. Did our opponent find a Daze? How many did they keep in on the play? On the draw, sorry. They did keep in some. That's fine. That's 1 less Daze to get pointed at our Sheoldred. This is what I mean about all of our plays being backbreaking. They've had to Force of Will that. They had to Daze that because they're relying on a Murktide win, I believe. And now we have another Swamp. So not an exciting turn for us here, but we can represent an opposition agent now. So they might be reluctant to crack their fetch here. Alright, they weren't reluctant to crack their fetch. There's Volcanic. Over to us. Do we want to play around Daze? Do we need to play around Daze is the next question. I think if we play a Swamp right now, our opponent's probably holding up Bowmasters. Do we want to just jam the Sheoldred into Daze, or do we wait a turn, play Sheoldred around Daze, and then also follow up with a Wasteland? If we don't have to pay for the Daze. That just feels like a better use of our resources here. We can afford to take a little bit from this Bowmasters. I think that's fine. Now, if our opponent has Force of Will rather than Daze, then that's annoying. But I think it's better to hold up this way. Alright, they didn't even have the Bowmasters, so not any sort of punish pressure-wise at all. Another land. So now we can play out this Wasteland. And here comes the Sheoldred. Force of Will, pitching Force of Negation. So a nice little 2 for 1 there. And we can take our opponent off of black mana here. I think that's worth doing. To be fair, we don't really care about our opponent's black cards very much in this matchup. Maybe Sheoldred's Edict if they're running it. Plague Engineer, this is going to name Orc, I suspect. Yeah. But we're going to play a Dauthi Voidwalker instead, which will be winning the race. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. This doesn't impact the race, so we're going to Thoughtseize them. Just get a little bit of information what they're holding back over there. 2 lands. Okay. So we could have played the Dauthi Voidwalker first to get whatever they lost from their hand underneath it. But the problem with that is, if our opponent has a counter spell, that's our last piece of pressure that we've just got rid of. So, yeah. So we're on a 6-turn clock. Our opponent's on a 9. So we're on a 9-turn clock. Our opponent's on a 6-turn clock. So we're going to clock them faster. But they have lightning bolts in their deck, which can obviously dramatically change things. They did not shuffle their library, which suggests to me they found a lightning bolt. A brainstorm. We currently only have 3 types in their graveyard. So the Dauthi Void, the Dragon's Rage Channeler is not going to be that big. But the... Okay, so Mystic Sanctuarying back a brainstorm here. A Force of Will. Interesting. Not necessarily what I would have expected. Okay, so they're just going to play a Murktide with a Force of Will backing it up. Okay, sure. We haven't had a Sheoldred's Edict yet, but we can't pinpoint the Murktide. So we're actually in a bit of an awkward spot here. We can ponder into some action if we need to. A Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Don't mind if I do. Our opponent's just got a Volcanic Island in hand, I believe. They played a Flooded Strand last turn. So we'll play this. We won't play the Urborg out. We get to bash here. So probably just bash with their Murktide. We know that they're drawing a dead card with the Force of Will. I say a dead card. It's not strictly speaking a dead card, but it's not helping them right now. So we take 6 here. They can attack with the Plague Engineer, but then they get cracked back for 7. So it's just the 6 coming in here, which is effectively 4 because we've got a life gain. So we can take 4 hits from the Murktide at this current junction. Alright, a Bowmasters. That's quite handy. It gets us 1 ping. Okay, Plague Engineer is staying back to block our Sheoldred, but that's not what we're about here. We're just jamming with our Dauthi Voidwalker here. So if we get 1 more combat step, we win the game. Well, if we get 1 more combat step and our opponent gets a draw step without these creatures leaving play. Because this one will put them to 2, and this will drain them out for the final points. Our Bowmasters is a ping for 1 damage, which can be relevant if we lose our Dauthi Voidwalker to a lightning bolt or something. Let's attack in with a Dauthi here. There's a lightning bolt. So this 1 ping that I mentioned is going to be really handy here. So let's play this out. This is going to put them to an even life. Okay, they're going to Force of Will this. That was really unnecessary. Maybe. Right, so we'll play this out. We'll drop this. We'll name Dragon here, because that means we'll take 5. That's still going to be lethal here, isn't it? To a single lightning bolt off the top. Interesting. Sure, we'll still name Dragon there. So our opponent's got 1 draw step to find a lightning bolt, or an answer to our Sheoldred. We can trade these off if necessary. Did not find the lightning bolt, or they're going to do it in response to our draw. Trigger. They did not. Okay. Let's see if we can get our opponent to sacrifice a creature, because they can cast a spell in response to the damage off of the Sheoldred. Not sure what that would be that would win in the game, but we got there. It was a bit of a grind, and the Murktide definitely could have proved a little bit challenging. So maybe we want some targeted removal a little bit somewhere in our deck. All right, let's go to round 2. We are 1-0. All right, into round 2. I do not like our hand. We do not have the mana to play on. Let's mulligan. We do not necessarily have the mana to play on, but we do have the Grief package. And we are on the draw, so I will keep this one. And we're going to get rid of one of these opposition agents I don't particularly like. The other one is going to go underneath the Grief. Flooded Strand. Oakley dokley. A basic island. That could be representative of something like a high tide deck. Right, let's evoke this pitching opposition agent. Bowmaster's probably going to be good in this matchup because our opponent has got blue mana, so they're going to have something that draws them cards in their deck. Nice basic. Yeah, we do have the matching set basic lands. Right, let's see what our opponent's working with here. Okay, so we're one of these people, are we? So I think we take the Force of Will here, and then we cast the Reanimate, targeting our little friend here. And there's the Brainstorm that we expected to see. So we're looking at Cephalid Breakfast, I suspect, here. Or it could be the Thoughtlash deck with a splash in it, but I suspect it's more likely to be thingy. Right, so finish resolving the Brainstorm. Now we get our Reanimate. Oh no, they found a Force of Will pitching the step through. Okay, so we got 2 for 1 with that. So we ended up getting a 3 for 3. And now we can deploy some Bowmasters and do lots of cool stuff here. There's a Misty Rainforest we knew about. Our opponent could just deploy the combo next turn. So we could play our Bowmasters out. We don't have a choice of playing the Dauthi because we didn't draw a black source, so I think we're just playing this Bowmaster. If we'd have drawn a black source, we could have thought about the Dauthi Voidwalker instead to stop them from comboing. Orcish Bowmasters does stop our opponent from comboing, but not necessarily depending on how they play their creatures out. I guess we can always kill one of their things. I will jam this in now, because this can ping off one of their X1s, which is why Cephalid Breakfast has sort of seen a bit of a decline lately. Alright, so we've got Bowmasters in. We at least have a clock on the game. A Palantír. Interesting. So we're going to hold this second Bowmasters as removal. We want the first one just so we're actually making inroads into winning the game. We need to reduce our opponent's life total. If we give them enough time, they'll win the game. But we can hold back one Bowmasters to smash up something. Now, if they play an Urza Saga, we do have an awkward situation if we don't draw another land of whether or not we wasteland our opponent. So we're hopefully shutting off their cantrips and things as well here. Right, so we've drawn a swamp. Are we supposed to deploy this Dauthi Voidwalker or hold up the Bowmasters? That's a genuine, difficult decision. I think we hold up the Bowmasters. It does put us in the same situation next turn, but as soon as we draw another land, we get to break out of our own little slight lock on the game that we've set ourselves. But again, we've got a clock in place, so we are the one who is currently winning if nothing changes. So our opponent is forced to act, and which allows us to play reactive Bowmasters. Another land from our opponent. No follow-up. Would love to draw a land. Did not draw a land. Let's go to attacks. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. If you play out the Dauthi Voidwalker, they can have Force of Will blue card and untapping the thing, but the Force of Will is going to get us anyway. Right, I'm just going to play out the Dauthi right now. I think maybe we should have done that last turn. It's tough to say. So this will stop our opponent's combo if they are Cephalid Breakfast, which I would imagine they are if they're playing fetch lands plus step 3. Right, our opponent is cracking the Flooded Strand, presumably for basic planes, so they can play underneath our Wasteland that's face up. Yeah, there it is. And there's the plow on our Dauthi. Do they have it here? Definitely get punished here. Removal was the thing that we don't play around when we're playing out the Dauthi. Right, they're cracking a Misty Rainforest. I don't like this. I want our opponent just to pass and let us carry on with our lives. A basic island. Here we go. Yep, the Dauthi line is going to get us punished, I think. There's a Cephalid Illusionist. We're just going to see their deck before they... Right, so we will yield through this turn. And we just want to see their deck. If they put a Cabal Therapy on the stack, we'll just scoop. But I don't think they're going to do that until they get some Narcomoebs going. Yep, keep it coming. Just want to see their configurations. They're on Staves of the Storyteller. So this is a Cephalid Wizard, I believe. Yep, and this is a Core Nomad Soldier. And these are illusions, not jellyfish like I thought they were once upon a time. Right. So they got Orange Chance. That's good to know. How many are we looking at in the main deck? Playing out that Dauthi Voidwalker looks like it's cost us the game here. Now we don't know what our opponent's last card in hand is either. That could be relevant. Should have return. I assume they're just going to go for it here. Would make sense. We've got some nice tools for this matchup. We've got Surgicals. We've got Plague Engineer, which can name Wizard, so this can't be in play. Our opponent seems quite deep in thought here. They do have it if they go for it here. They've got 18 cards left in the library. I wonder what they're worried about. Like, Snuff Out doesn't stop it. Dismember doesn't stop it. There's not really any main deck tools that we could be running here. Oh wow, they let us have another turn. That's interesting. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Let's try and bash up. I was not expecting to get this turn. They can just go at instant speed here. I'm curious why they didn't kill us last turn. They're targeting us with Cabal Therapy. We will scoop. Alright, so we've got these surgical extractions that seem pretty decent. We have these Plague Engineers that are pretty nice. Tourach definitely has some tech that might come in handy here. I'm not massively up on Opposition Agent in this matchup. I think it's fine, but I think the Plague Engineer is just better. I think we can probably trim on a Reanimate here to get us one of our Surgicals. The Sheoldred's Edicts are nice for taking out some of their scary constructs when they get big. Probably take out a Sheoldred because they're probably going to be running some amount of Caracas in their deck. We don't just want to get jammed up, but we'll still have one for when it is necessary. And I think this is probably fine. Right, so we're on the play now. Our hand is a load of Dark Rituals and a Bowmaster. I don't think this does enough. We need to have a disruptive hand in some fashion. This counts as disruptive. We do have to throw back one of these cards. It's probably the Urborg. So we have Grief Reanimate turn 1 into turn 2 Dauthi. So goodbye Urborg. We can cast our spells. What more do you want? Let's play this out. Cast this, get rid of a Dauthi. What are you working with there, opponent? Cabal Therapy, Swords to Plowshares, Fairy Time Raveler, Stealth Storyteller. I think we'll take a Swords to Plowshares here. And I'd like my Grief back, please. Question is, what am I taking now? I don't really care about the Cabal Therapy. The Orim's Chant isn't that exciting to me. I think the Staff the Storyteller or the Teferi are the ones that kind of bother me. Teferi can shut down more of our lines that interact with our opponent, but Staff the Storyteller can come down quicker. I think we're going to take the Teferi. Now, if our opponent blind names this Dauthi, that's kind of annoying, but it is one of the better cards against their deck that we have, that we wouldn't have cast yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did that, but they will expose themselves to a Wasteland potentially, because I doubt they want to get a swamp off of this. There's a Delta. And no play. Dark Ritual, that can come in hand if we make a 4-drop. We're going to play this now. Means if our opponent wants to crack this. Alright, so if we didn't see any Murktide. Murktide has kind of been some of the new tech I've seen in some of the breakfast decks lately. But if they did and they want to crack this to put in their graveyard. And also now any spells they cast can go into the Dauthi. So if they cast an Orim's Chant, we can then get an Orim's Chant under the Dauthi if our opponent gets close to comboing off in our view. So that's pretty tasty. But we've got 6 power coming in. We're kind of out of juice, but we've done a lot. We've disrupted our opponent twice, and we have this third creature which they can't combo through while it's in play. So, like the spot we're in, can still go wrong from here though, because that's Magic the Gathering. There's a Tundra we know about. They might find themselves in a situation of Orim's Chanting. Alright, so they found a plow. That's really good for them. So they might find themselves in a situation of Orim's Chanting at some point to buy themselves a turn. Because you can kick this so that I can't attack. A Plague Engineer. I will attack with this. What's happening here? They're going to Orim's Chant us so we can't play anything. No, they just got a basic island. We'll cast this. I think if we'd have cast this and this was uncracked, they might have just gone to get a white source to potentially Orim's Chant to stop whatever we're about to put in. Let's put in a Plague Engineer. We will name Wizard. No more Cephalids for you. Well, Cephalid Wizards, I guess. I don't think they're going to be playing any other Cephalids. We've got a 3-turn clock on the game. They currently can't combo because of the Plague Engineer. So they will need to find an answer. They have a Spirit, we can attack into that. Do you have a follow-up land? No. Okay. So our opponent's got 2 additional spells as well as these ones. Then we go to attacks. Get our bash in for 5. And I will Thoughtseize our opponent now. They've got 2 cards we don't know. Orim's Chant, Flusterstorm, Battle. Okay, so we're just going to take this Staff the Storyteller. And sort of cut their momentum out from underneath them. They do get 1 card off this staff that's already in play. But they won't be able to put a creature in play that can tangle with our Plague Engineer. So it's not going to slow our clock. A Ponder. Sure. So that was their draw for turn. So I'm going to try this one first so they get maximum information before they choose whether they're activating their Staff the Storyteller or what they can find. I think our opponent's pause before when we played the Dark Ritual was in case they want to Flusterstorm. They decided against it. So far cost them 2 damage. They did not shuffle their library off the Ponder. An Urza's Saga. Okay, that's a very real win condition. It's also going to charge up their staff. So our opponents turn this game a little bit now. We're on a clock to try and race them before they can start. They might not have a Shadow Spear. That might not be a thing we have to worry about. Attack with all of our creatures. I suspect they're just going to draw a card this turn. They'll probably chump block here. Yep, there it is. Because that means that our Grief will be lethal on its own next turn. So we get to bash in with Grief, they make a token. We bash in with Grief, they die. So they're probably going to be firing off an Orange Chant defensively if they can find a second white source. There's Misty Rainforest. So they can Orange Chant here. Or rather not here, in our turn. Which they might be doing. Okay, I decided against it. I don't think I want to trade my Plague Engineer here. The Grief is a 2-turn clock on its own, so we're just going to enjoy that. We've got a basic island over there. We're making a lad. They're pumping their staff. They're going to draw a card off of it. Are they going to have a Shadow Spear in their deck? Because that could be awkward for us. Yep, so here comes their free card. I do love this Staff of Storyteller as a side combo. I play it in decks like Painter. White Painter. Alright, they're going to make another guy here. Or they got a Shadow Spear they're going to equip. So they just make a Shadow Spear and equip. They need to find a land to Orange Chant us. Right, they're floating off of the Saga. Okay. They got a Shuko. Okay, that's fine. We keep our Plague Engineer around, so they at least have to answer this before they can win the game. Now, they've drawn a lot of cards. We're going to see here. A Teferi, bounce, maybe draw a land. Yep, so it's going to be Teferi, bounce Plague Engineer, draw a land, play Cephalid Illusionist, kill us. I think that's what's going to happen here. They're bouncing the Grief. Okay, so they don't have the kill right now. Interesting. Okay, sure. This is not attacking. So if we draw a land, we can just start hard casting these Griefs and having a lovely time. We drew a land. Okay. Can I have Grief, please? Orange Chant, Flusterstorm, Cabal Therapy. I think we take the Retrofitter's Foundry here, because that represents a whole bunch of cards and all sorts. Alright. So they're going to use a Flooded Strand. Well, they can't use a Flooded Strand, actually, because they're on 1. So they don't have another white source to Orange Chant us. That is awkward for them. For sure. Yep. Plushing their Teferi. That's not what we're about right now. We've taken their ability to make a blocker. They have one mystery card. It has to be enough to win them the game. Or to stop them losing the game. They can't just combo us out because of the Plague Engineer. I think we're going to game 3. Now, if they had a plow, they'd have just plowed us now and it'd be game over. So I don't think that's what they've got. There's one of their Flooded Strands. They've only got 8 minutes left on their clock as well, so... A Palantír. Interesting. Right, let's attack with our Grief here. And see what our opponent musters up here. We don't need to show them the Palantír necessarily. This will just be a Howling Mine for us. Because they're on 1 life. But alright. So, I'm happy with the way we've sideboarded here. Do we want Tourachs as pro-white guys to dodge plows? I don't think so. Like, that's... We just want the plows to go on things that aren't Dauthi Voidwalker, right? So, I think we keep things as they are. We could bring in Cursed Totem to stop the Nomads. Or we could bring in Null Rod to stop the Shuko. But the problem is, you can stop one of them, but not the other one. It doesn't really help. I think it's better just to have the Plague Engineer, because that's always going to be live. Whereas these are very situational. So, yeah. I think we're going to roll like this. We've got these 3 Surgicals they didn't see in that game as well. Which is just another thing they have to try and deal with. Thoughtseize, Grief... Plague Engineer, this hand is good. Would love to find another land at some point, but we can work on that. We'll keep this. Our opponent's already mulliganed once, which makes our Thoughtseize even better. We take a higher percentage of their opening hand. They've mulliganed to 5. This is better for us again. Now, they have 5-card hands that we won't be able to beat. Or is that true? No, I think because of the Thoughtseize and the Grief, it's going to be hard for us to like insta-die to it. Because they need 4 cards plus a piece of Disruption, which isn't going to be enough, is it? They could have Leyline of Sanctity. If they have Leyline of Sanctity, then they could beat us. Because they can just have Leyline on turn 0, turn 1, Nomads, turn 2, Cephalid, go. And that's going to be very good. Unless they draw any of their combo pieces, and they're kind of locked out the game because they can't target themselves. So is it Shroud or Hexproof, actually, that Leyline grants you? Right, Flooded Strand. Anyway. So we get to begin the game with the Thoughtseize to our opponent's face. Alright, we drew a land as well. Everything is coming up Millhouse. Alright. Pow. Thoughtseize. What are you working with? Cephalid Illusionist. Plow. I think we take the Illusionist here. This way, if we ever find a Surgical, we can just say no to their combo. Right, so there's a Misty Rainforest we know about. They're cracking now. Interesting. Have they remembered that we have Opposition Agent potentially in our deck? Feels that way. That's the correct play right there. And they're fetching basics because they've already seen the Wasteland, so we're kind of taxing our opponent in different ways here. So we play out this Swamp. I don't think we want to Grief right now. If our opponent has a combo, we can answer it with a Sheoldred's Edict next turn. There's a Misty Rainforest. Okay, what is the plan here? We can cast a Dark Ritual. That's 3 mana. So we can have 5 mana this turn. So we could deploy a Grief and have nothing spare. We could play a Sheoldred. Or we could play a Plague Engineer, hold up Sheoldred's Edict for their Brazen Borrower. Or, I guess it would have to be... we probably need to disrupt our opponent's hand. The other option here is Grief pitching Dark Ritual. But we may as well just deploy the Grief at that point. I think we're going to roll with the Grief plan. Now our opponent might Swords to Plowshares this just so we can't reanimate it, because we are representing the reanimate here. So our opponent might plow this in response to the trigger, which means we'll get 2 cards with it, which will be pretty tasty. So play a Borrower, we can just take 3 and then kill it with an Edict or a Plague Engineer. We don't have to worry about that. Let's see what our opponent's working with here. Or are they going to plow out with the trigger on the stack like I thought they might? Getting some movement. The other option here is to Brazen Borrower. Just so they can guarantee a threat in play. Which is fine by me if we get to plow their creature. Okay, they're just petty thefting our Grief. Okay. So this still gets to do its thing. So we take the plow. Yeah, okay. So I don't know why they didn't just plow it here. If that's what they were planning on doing. Interesting. There's a Tundra. A Retrofitter's Foundry. So this makes servos, does it? So we have 4, 5, 6 mana if we want it. We know our opponent's hellbent here. They have a Brazen Borrower they can deploy. I don't care about the Brazen Borrower. What does 6 mana give us? 6 mana gives us Sheoldred plus Sheoldred's Edict. Or Plague Engineer, Sheoldred's Edict, and the Wasteland. That's pretty nice. I think we'll deploy this. Just make servos, right? Name servo. We'll Wasteland our opponent here. They're going to deploy their Brazen Borrower. Then we're going to Sheoldred's Edict it. So our opponent has Retrofit's Foundry that can't do anything. And no cards in hand. We are trying to find a 4th land here. A Brainstorm is a pretty good way for our opponent to gas up here. I hope we don't regret playing our Plague Engineer on servo. But I think if you don't do something that beats the board in front of you, you can be quite likely to lose. Now, we definitely have tools in our deck, and we've got a reasonable hand that we can pitch some stuff. Okay, so we've got an Illusionist here. Understood. I don't think our opponent's going to attack into our Plague Engineer. I don't think they're going to block either. Alright, let's go to attacks. Right. Are we dead this turn? I'll be very sad. A Tundra on top. Okay. So they don't have the combo, because I think you just put the combo on top and Hail Mary at that point. So draw a card here. Okay, life. Play this. Attack with our guys. So they can block with the Sephid Illusionist and use its other ability here. This is prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and dealt by target creature you control this turn. Very surprised they didn't fire that off. We'll play another threat here. We'll interact in everywhere we can. And hope that the top card of our opponent's library isn't the combo. I don't think you would stack your cards like that if you have the combo. Because they should know what the next card is, right? This is tense. Alright, we got the match. Alright. So yeah, we didn't even find our great surgical extractions there. So that was pretty nice too. We could be running something like Fairy Macabre, but I do like surgical extraction because we're a heavy discard deck, so we can actually hit the piece and remove it. Alright, 2-0. Let's go to round 3. Sure, this hand looks alright to me. We can get up to 3 mana, 2 of it being very stable. We've got some hand disruption, we've got some other things. So we can lead off with a Thoughtseize and see if we need to grief our opponent as well. Our opponent has not played anything on turn 1. Alright. They've just a second main phase hipster. I see. Fair enough. Or they passed through by accident. I've done that a few times, but I haven't managed to catch myself and ended up skipping a whole turn. So, alright. A ponder. They shuffle their library. So we're going to get a clean look at what they have to work with. Palantír. That's going to be interesting later on down the line. Let's Thoughtseize. What flavour? of blue deck, are we? Well, with that flavour, are we? I see. So the Cabal Ritual gives them the Doomsday next turn. Interesting. I think we hit the Doomsday and then we... Yes, we hit the Doomsday here. And then we Grief. Pitching... Opposition Agent is very good against Doomsday. They can't win through it. They also struggle to win through Bowmasters. Right, I'm going to pitch the Troll and hope that we draw a land in the next 2 turns. Let's take their other Doomsday. If we only had 1 discard, we'd have taken the Cabal Ritual and hoped to find something else going on. Alright. 2 Doomsdays down. This is another matchup where Surgical is much better than something like Leyline because we actually can discard and mess up their entire strategy. Flooded Strand. Okay. A Dark Ritual. So we can Bowmasters or we can Opposition Agent here. If our opponent cracks their fetch, I think we... do we want to play a Bowmasters in response to their Consider? I think so. I think it ramps up our... It gives us a decent clock into play. And our opponent is kind of spinning their wheels over there, so... Our opponent's getting to a point where their life total is going to be quite low if we get another turn. So they might have to try a pass the turn pile. They did put the card from the Consider into their graveyard as well. So a pass the turn pile might not work against us in the very near future. Okay, so draw a Ponder. They're playing into the Orcish armies because they're either going to win or they're not, right? They have Veil of Summer as a thing in their deck. So once Ponder's finished resolving, if they put a Veil of Summer into their hand, they can then cast it in response to this Bowmaster's ping and stop it. But that's not what happened. We can draw another land. Well, we don't even need another land because we have the Opposition Agent, but a Thoughtseize. Right, let's cast a Dark Ritual. A friendly card that never hurt anyone. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent. Say crack a fetch to cast anything here. Cabal Ritual, Brainstorm. Right, we'll take the Brainstorm, I guess. Give me 3 cards. Then we'll play this out. It's probably going to be game. Doomsday, not a great card to cast into Opposition Agent, because I control them when they make their Doomsday pile. Obviously cracking their fetches now to make sure that we don't get the lands. Otherwise it would be double Strip Mine. So we bash them for 4 this turn and 7 next turn. There's a Swamp. They're going to cycle this Edge of Autumn now. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if they cycle Edge of Autumn, they can't cast a Doomsday and pass a turn. Right. Goodbye, Edge of Autumn. Unearth. They're cycling this, sure. So that's going to give us another ping. So now they are dead on our turn. Alright. And they scooped it up. Alright, this is a matchup that I'm pretty happy with, I think. We have these Surgical Extractions, which have just disappeared somewhere. There they are. So these feel pretty strong. Dauthi Voidwalkers aren't that impressive here. They're okay. Palantír, I think, is a little bit slow for this matchup. The Dauthi Voidwalkers are not really where I want to be either. So I think we can probably trim those for Surgicals. Sheoldred, still very good. Sheoldred's Edict is good if they're pivoting into the other, into like the backup plans of either Murktide Regent or Sheoldred. And I don't think the Dauthi Voidwalkers are going to be amazing there. Maybe we only want 3 Sheoldred's Edict, but I really don't want to get stung by them. Maybe a 3-3 split is okay. And we can reappraise the situation later. Let's try this. Previous builds of this I've played have had Torpor Orb in the sideboard. I don't even think that's that necessary. We have double Surgical Extraction. We don't have any way of putting cards on our opponent's graveyard though. We are running 8 discard effects though. I don't think we can keep this hand without discard effects, to be honest. I think we have to mulligan. We are down to no discard effects again. Our opponent has also mulled to 6 cards so far. I think we need some hand disruption. Alright, that's a good hand. We'll keep this. I wish this was our 7, but... Right, so we're going to keep 2 lands. We're going to keep Thoughtseize. We're going to keep Surgical Extraction. We could keep the Dark Ritual. Or we could keep something like a Bowmaster, so we at least have something to play to the board and win the game with. I think that's probably the plan here. Let's see if they just turn 1 kill us. Lotus Petal, okay. Dark Ritual, okay. Doomsday, okay. So now I wish we kept the Dark Ritual, because then we could at least throw the Bowmasters out, and it makes drawing cards a little bit awkward for them. We can mess up their pile with a Surgical. It's not very helpful, but it's a thing we can do. They also don't know we have Wasteland in our deck. So we might be able to get them with a Wasteland here. Actually, no, they do know we have a Wasteland, I think, right? Did we have a Wasteland the last game? I think we did. That's another thing I have to play around, but... Alright, they finished that pile relatively quickly. Let's see what they exiled here. Prismatic Ending, Serenity, Personal Tutor, Teferi, Terminus. Okay, so they don't have the pivot here into any creatures. That's good to know for game 3. Alright. Our available players consist of Thoughtseizing our opponent and casting a Surgical Extraction. We can take a Brainstorm. We can surgically extract a Brainstorm. We can see their pile. So we can take the Brainstorm, take this Brainstorm. So what do they have here? Edge of Autumn, Street Wraith. Okay, so if we messed up the pile and they draw the Oracle, they lose the game here. So we've got a route to winning the game. Also, if they draw their Thassa's Oracle before their island, they can't win either. So that's another thing we have going for us. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I will play this. Are we deploying the Bowmasters first? Does it matter? I think it clocks slightly quicker, which is going to play out now. So I think we've got a greater than 50% chance our opponent's cards are in the wrong way. So they need them in a specific way because they've gone for a Lion's Eye Diamond Kill. Because they need the blue mana off of this. So yeah, so if they draw any point Thassa's Oracle is in their hand and this is uncracked, we win the game. So I suppose actually it's in their favour, right? They're cycling this. And they're cracking. I think this is a hit and hope situation. They got a 50-50 chance of winning the game. They did not get there. Alright, so that what they're doing there is they know that if they draw the Thassa's Oracle, they lose the game. So they're drawing the Thassa's Oracle now because it's a 50-50. And next turn we might have more disruption. So they might as well go for the 50-50 now when they know it's clear. Yeah, pretty awkward spot, but Surgical Extraction, like I said, you can mess with some combo decks, and it did work for us there. We are 3-0. Let's go to round 4. Alright, we're on the play for round 4. We have a turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Opposition Agent Wasteland. That's fine. I'll give that a whirl. Our Sheoldred's Edicts, their mileage may vary in this matchup. We will see. But we're locked in with a positive record at least, which is good testing, but we want to push it as far as we can. So this is a Swamp into Thoughtseizes. Alright, Fatal Push, Troll, Bowmasters. What do we care about here? I don't really like our Opposition Agent very much. I don't want to have to fire 2 of these off to kill a Bowmasters. We can always jump it in and get them. We can take out the Troll and try and mess with their mana. We can take out the Brainstorm, make things difficult. We can take out some of their removal. We're going to have to grind through. I think we take out the Troll and maybe Wasteland them off their Underground Sea next turn. That seems like a very irritating thing to do to somebody. Right, there's Underground Sea. Ooh, they've got to reanimate. They drew off the top. Sure, we have that covered. We do know their hand here. And we can strip it bare. An Orcish Bowmasters. Interesting. So we could Sheoldred's Edict now and just get rid of this. Or we could Dark Ritual so we can Sheoldred's Edict and Wasteland. Or we could Wasteland Opposition Agent and just shut down their ability to produce mana. And then worry about this the next turn. Is that what our plan is the question. We do have double Sheoldred's Edict, so we can afford to take some damage. I think the play here is Dark Ritual into Opposition Agent. And then we will take out our opponent's mana source. We know they didn't draw a land last time because they drew a Reanimate. Alright, so now they have a land. They can't Fatal Push our creature because it's got CMC 3, and this needs a CMC 2, unless they have the But if we kill this Troll, they get to kill our Opposition Agent, which is not ideal. Alright, and we didn't draw the land. So we might be getting punished for this. I don't think we're playing this grief out yet either. Alright, our opponents just naturally rip 2 lands in a row. I think we have lost the game. Because now they can Brainstorm if they want to. Provided they kill our Opposition Agent. Oh, they've made a mistake and just cracked a Strange Opposition Agent. I will take an Underground Sea, please. Are they deeming it worth to do that? Interesting. Interesting. Okay. We do know our opponent's full hand here. They're willing to give us a land when we're mana screwed. I'll take that. Right, so we'll play this land. Sacrifice a non-token creature, please, opponent. I don't think we want to cast anything here. Well, we can cast the Grief, but it'll cost us 2 cards. I don't think we have to do that yet. So we could play a Palantír here and just get things going. I don't hate that. And we've got some pretty big hits in our deck, so they really have to make a decision. We'll put this on the bottom. We'll leave the Sheoldred on the top. I think they're just going to take the damage here. Right, if we draw a card, at the very least it's a black card for Grief, if we draw the Sheoldred. But if we find a land on our next draw, then we have a Sheoldred, and it's going to be big news. Yep, so they took the 4 off of the Sheoldred. So I think they can't afford to take the hit off the Palantír again. So we should have Howling Mine set up now. A Grief. Pitching Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. I think we should be okay here. So we know the 4 cards left in our... Actually, no, the Fatal Push is gone, right? So our opponent does have 1 mystery card here. I don't think it's a Reanimate, because you would take the Sheoldred's Edict then, I think. We have a Reanimate. Are we casting Reanimate here? That's an interesting choice we have. We could Reanimate Sheoldred. It's got 3 cards in hand. Right, and we can hold up the Sheoldred's Edict here. This will gain us some life. We'll put this on the bottom of the library. Put this on the top of the library. It's a card we can cast, or it'll dome them for 3, and then they'll be dead very soon. So, happy about this. Surely they're not going to take it. It could find another card underneath and they could just die here. Alright, so it's a swamp, so they lucked out a little bit there. They know we have a removal spell, though. So they're looking for a land this turn to then cast their Sheoldred's Edict, killing our Sheoldred. Alright, they didn't get there. Excellent. So we're looking like blue-black scam. We didn't see any watery greys. Oh wait, we did see their deck actually when we were in opposition game. We should have paid slightly more attention to that. So, what do we want here? There's an argument for Surgical Extraction, just to stop their really scary, like, creature-heavy, Reanimate-heavy lines. But we're kind of doing the same thing that they're doing over here. Question. Is Plague Engineer better than Opposition Agent? Opposition Agent can strand your opponent's cards, but Plague Engineer can just deal with your opponent's orcs cleanly and make your Sheoldred's Edict better. So I think this is where we're going. We do have to be careful about reanimating stuff and putting things in our graveyard, because our opponent can obviously reanimate as well. So we're going to have to be somewhat cautious. Palantír looked good in that round. So this 3-drop slot could be anything, really. It could be like Black Market Connections or whatever, but I think Palantír is quite a nice place to be. This hand is a bit slow. We don't really give our opponent anything good to reanimate. A Double Grief just ends us completely. And for getting Double Grief, we want a density of cards in our hand. Am I keeping this? 2 spell hand. Yuck. Like, it does allow us to cast a bunch of stuff. I think we have to mulligan though. Alright, this seems a lot better. We are going to put away our Sheoldred. We do not want our opponent to Thoughtseize and then reanimate our Sheoldred. We will lose that game. Almost to the point where we would mulligan this 7 purely because it has the Sheoldred in there. Well, we do have the answer for the Sheoldred, but it's sketchy. Alright, I think we're both starting the game on 6 cards. A basic island from our opponent there. A Grief. So they're probably going to take our Reanimates, I would imagine, here. Unless they have a Daze coming up. Alright. Like I said, they took the Reanimate, as expected. So what do they pitch to this? Another Grief. So we maybe get to... are we... Bowmasters? We don't really want to play the first Bowmasters, to be honest. I think we're just going to Thoughtseize here. A Dismember and a Force of Will. I will take the Dismember, please. Not convinced by that hand our opponent has there, but I guess I didn't want to go to 5. There's a Polluted Delta. Like I said, we don't want to play the first Bowmaster necessarily, unless we draw a second one, then that's fine. We can play it in our opponent's turn. If we get Force of Will out of our opponent, that's fine too. Let's play the Bow Boys. This might be scary enough for a Force of Will, or we're just going to see a Brainstorm response. A Daze. Sure. We will not pay. That's 1 less Daze we have to work through later. And then we'll pass. So we're going to save this Bowmasters now. So our opponent's got Force of Will, a land that they're about to play, I imagine. There it is. And have 2 mystery cards. We're not just going to fire out this Bowmasters now because we want to use it as removal. A Grief. This is pretty good. Then we'll cast this Dark Ritual. And we'll cast this Grief. It's good enough for a Force of Will if they have it. Alright. They have a Force of Will and a Grief of their very own. I think we just keep taking the Grief here. Like, leaving our opponent with a card that has to 2-for-1 themselves is pretty much where I want to be. We've got a nice grip. We can deal with creatures that pop up. We can deal with... Oh, they've got a play here. What is this? Reanimate. A Fatal Push. So we know our opponent's one card in hand. It can't interfere with anything we do. So we can jam something scary at our opponent. Or we can just do nothing there. There's an option of casting the Bowmasters here. But I'd either get the value off of them casting a cantrip. Or killing their Bowmasters. I don't want to play it out for no reason. Okay. This Wasteland does nothing against us. That's exciting. But they're playing out in case they get another land next turn. And then they can just hold up a hard cast Force of Will. Which means we're maybe supposed to ping off this Bowmasters now. So it doesn't get knocked by the Force of Will. But if they have a Bowmaster own, that's really annoying. Right, I think we're just going to play this out. Oh, they can't Force of Will. Like, it's going to tax any cantrip to draw. The only draw that's bad for us right now is if they draw Bowmasters themselves. That's the only way that this line is punished. Any cantrips or removal, it's fine because we've at least got a creature in play. It's not the end of the world. Like, cantrips obviously actively good for us if they find them. It's neutral for the most of the other cards in their deck. Swamp Cycling Troll of Khazad-dûm. Sure. So this is going to give them access to Force of Will next turn. Hard cast. And they can also cast a Troll pretty soon. We do have that covered in terms of the Troll because we've got 2 removal spells. If we can find a land this turn, we can snipe away. Okay, so they're going to Mystic Sanctuary, a land spell on top of that deck. So probably the Fatal Push, I think, here. Yes, it's the Fatal Push. Sure. That's fine. It takes out half of my card. It does turn their cantrips back on to do it. But again, I don't care that much. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Not quite one. So they're coming into tapped here is definitely going to cost us a little bit. If this was not a Hive of the Eye Tyrant, then we could play this Grief. Alright, so they're holding open Force of Will now. Oh, Wasteland, you say. They have Force of Will and Fatal Push. So they could Fatal Push our Hive of the Eye Tyrant if we play it. Or they can hard cast a Force of Will. Let's attack and see what they do first. If we play this Grief, they're definitely going to Force of Will it. Are we waiting? I guess we could have Wastelanded and stopped them doing it then. Yeah, that would have been smarter, I think. If we have Wastelanded in combat. But I think this is still fine. Another Wasteland. So they have our Hive of the Eye Tyrant covered in several different ways here. But we are still winning the race. Let's go to tax. I think they're going to hold up the Force of Will rather than Wastelanding us here. Sure, you can Fatal Push our Bow Boys. Do I think Palantír or Grief is better? I think Palantír is better. So we're going to cast Grief first. This is also one that if they... Yeah, okay, so here's the Force of Will. So if they do Wasteland our 2 lands, we can still cast a Palantír. So we've got the next 2 threats they play answered already, and we have a nice spell that can pull us ahead. Nice little engine. So, this a Bowmasters. Sure, we're going to lose our little guy, but I can live with that. We can take a little bit of hits from this. Palantír becomes awkward, but like I said, we can just kill this Bowmaster and make our Palantír good. A Wasteland. We can Wasteland our opponent off black. I think we go, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature here. Get rid of the Bowmasters. And then we can turn on our Palantír here. And let's see what we're working towards here. Any business spells. This can go on the bottom and we'll leave Sheoldred on top. They put the Sheoldred in the graveyard, which is something they can reanimate. But we do have a Sheoldred's Edict that we can fire off in our upkeep. I can take one. I believe in the Palantír from this point. Dauthi Voidwalker. This is a good card. I'd like to play a good card. We could shut our opponent off of black mana if we want to here. To stop them casting Troll. They just got another hardcast Force of Will here. This is the Daze. Drown in the Lock. Okay. Are we supposed to wasteland our opponent off of black mana? They'll take us off of our 4th mana pip. And then we see what the Palantír brings. We'll put this one on the bottom. So we already have a Sheoldred's Edict here. And put this one on top because it's actively good right now. I imagine it's going to the graveyard though. But if they find a Troll as well, then they'll die. So they took 5 there. Alright. Happy to take 1. This has got to be Howling Mine at this point. There's no way they can afford to keep taking damage on this. We've got follow up here. Now wastelanding our Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Castle Locthwain, you say? I'll play Castle Locthwain. I'll pass a turn. Let's see what the Palantír brings. A Reanimate and a Plague Engineer. I do want these cards, I think. I think we'll put Reanimate on top and then Plague Engineer. If they don't let us draw, they will lose the game. Alright. I don't think we need to activate our Castle Locthwain here. I think we are doing A-OK. So our opponent's got one card in hand. So I think we play out the Engineer first, and then we can hold back the Reanimate on Sheoldred for last. What have you got, opponent? What is this? 2 mana. Cracking Polluted Delta. If this is a hard cast Force of Will, that's A-OK with me. Let's Reanimate our Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Our opponent is on 2 life. And we're going to get to draw a card off of our Palantír, and they see the writing on the wall. So we are now 4-0. We are smashing these sort of Delver scam decks quite nicely, I think. Alright, let's go to the final round for the trophy. Alright, our opening hand is interesting. We can grief into Dauthi Voidwalker. And if we don't hit land, we can always find one for the Palantír. So I think this is worth keeping. Obviously, I would love to have a cheeky little Reanimate in amongst our hand here. But I think we're probably grief pitching grief. The classic grief pitching grief. How does our opponent feel about that? So terrifying into the open swamp as well. Because this makes our opponent debate. Oh, wow. They are scooping up to turn 1 grief. Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean? I think I want surgical extractions. I don't know why. I just got the vibe. Why would they scoop on turn 1? They can't be a deck that wants to grind the game. They have to be a deck that wants to try and win the game quickly. So I think we are on the surgical extraction plan here. I know we don't have a lot to go on, but why would you scoop to a single grief unless your hand was like a fragile combo deck? You didn't think you could beat a single piece of discard. So that strikes me as something like Oops All Spells. Interesting. Or I don't think a Storm deck's going to scoop to that. I think we just want the extractions here. There's an argument for some of these things, but I think they're a little bit niche, whereas the extraction probably is better. If they are a deck that's scooping stuff on turn 1, maybe the Palantír is going to be a bit slow. Maybe Sheoldred will also be a touch slow here. Dauthi Voidwalker might be great, I don't know. Alright, we're going to go with this configuration. Can we get the world's shortest ever trophy match, please? This hand doesn't really play Magic very well. So we can get a Swamp, and then we can play this on turn 2, but it's just not good enough. Okay, this allows us to play some stuff on turn 1. A Bowmasters or a Voidwalker, both of which are powerful disruptive cards. It's not hand disruption, but they're different forms of destruction. Depending on what our opponent's doing, maybe we can get there. Alright. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 so far. Hopefully we're going to get a better idea of what our opponent's doing this game, so we can board more appropriately for the 3rd game. Alternatively, I'm more than happy just to win this and take the trophy. Let's keep this. We're going to pitch one of our swamps because we can cast all of our spells here. Let's see. Okay, Chromox. What flavour of Chromox decks are we looking at here? A Shatterskull Smashing. Okay. So we could be looking at a mono-red prison deck. Okay. So Dauthi, not so good. Surgical Extraction, not looking very hot now, to be quite honest. We can flash in this Bowmasters. What does that achieve? We can flash it in our opponent's upkeep. That way they can't attack with this. So this is the correct timing on this one. Ping this for 1. This way, if it attacks, it dies to our army token. So I have to trade this for a token. So we're trading half a card with half a card. I doubt they're going to discard cards here unless they have some really powerful lock pieces they want to jam. They're looking for a Fury. That's a pretty strong one. But they pitched 2 cards for it. The Fury and the Fiery Confluence. Now, we did spend 2 cards making our Orcish Bowmasters, so that is an even trade. Our opponent's got 1 card left. What is this? Squee Dubious Monarch. Understood. Alright, so we have definitely got the wrong plan here. Our opponent's scoop in there has certainly helped us out. I have to imagine our opponent had some sort of weird Chromox dependent hand. That's the only thing that would make sense here. Alright, so we can kill off one of their guys when they attack. But we will have to deal with this Fable the Mirror Breaker at some point. So maybe we kill the Squee and then we use the Sheoldred's Edict to kill the Fable the Mirror Breaker. We got another Goblin. Lalia, Blade Reforged. Yep, that's pretty good. I think we're going to lose the game here. Right, so get themselves a treasure. Get themselves a 1/1. And what's the top card of their deck? A mountain. So if we... What is our actual route out of this? We don't have Plague Engineers here. Do I think we can realistically win this game? We can Bowmasters, kill this. This can copy other stuff next turn. What are we drawing towards? Alright. I think we are... They already know we're playing Bowmasters, so there's no harm in at least trying this bit out. We can ping off 2 of these goblins. So how do you get this guy back? You may cast by Xing 4 other cards from your graveyard. Okay, so we'll ping down this squee. We'll block here. And if we take out this goblin, that'll save us 2 damage along the way. It's not great. It's not great. But our opponent is hellbent. So we don't have to... In theory, we don't have to do that much. Not very happy about these surge extractions. Non-token creature. We'll do this now before the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki is active. So they have to lose either their Lalia or their Reflection, both of which are very strong. Gone for their Reflection. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7. We cannot fire off the Surgical Extraction. We have 2 dead cards in hand because our opponent did a very good job of scooping to a single grief. Alright. So they kind of got a free roll for game 2. Chalice of the Void. We don't care about that one too much. So... Sheoldred's Edict isn't good enough here. This certainly isn't good enough. I think we are just dead here. Our opponent's just showing us a few more cards they have. Right, they're just playing this Chalice of the Void from the Lalia. Sure. Show us more of your things, and then we'll scoop a Trinisphere. Alright, what is our solution to all these horrible things in front of us? I think the solution is draw a card, scoop the game. Yep, alright. So now we know what we're up against. We can actually sideboard properly. Opposition agents come out. These horrible surgicals come out. Palantír is interesting, but the first thing we want is Plague Engineer. We want these Plague Engineers. We want this Sheoldred because it's just better than all of their creatures. And we're basically back to original configuration, but we are getting our Plague Engineers instead of opposition agents. Is there an argument for running Null Rod in this matchup? Potentially, but I don't think it's that great. Is there an option for running Damping Sphere? Again, similar. I think we're just better off rolling like this, especially on the play where we get to pick apart our opponent's hand on turn 1 in theory. Okay, this hand is no good. No action. This hand is very good. So, what do we do? We go Swamp into Dark Ritual. Grief, pitch Bowmasters. Have 2 Reanimates. Reanimate Grief, reanimate whatever they throw away. Sure. So we just make their goblin and kill them down with their own goblin, in theory. The other option here is Grief, pitch, Reanimate, and then we can Bowmasters and Reanimate on turn 1. It's interesting. If they put a Leyline of the Void into play, then we pitch a Reanimate to our Grief, and we're just going to reanimate one of their scary things with a Bowmasters to help out. Our hand is a little bit all in. So, would I rather... Bowmasters isn't that good in this matchup. I think we're just going to Grief pitch Bowmasters here. They did scoop to Grief in game 1. Maybe they'll scoop this time. We can but hope. Okay, so we can take a Fury here and just... if we take a Fury this turn, we can take the Fury and the Rabblemaster and then reanimate one of them. That's interesting. So I think we take... I'm just trying to work out if it's better for us to have a Fury in play or a Rabblemaster. Or do we wait for them to make their turn 1 play and then do it that way? So if we go... If we get rid of Fury and then Rabblemaster, that seems okay. And then we can bring back their Fury for whatever they play. That seems like a strong opening gambit, doesn't it? And we can save our thing that time. So we can reanimate our Grief. And we can take their Rabblemaster, I think is scarier than the Lalia. The Lalia does get to hit us. So they can play a Rabblemaster in 2 turns. Oh, they're just going to go for this Null Rod that doesn't do anything against us. They fear that we are a Helm combo deck. But we are not. A Troll of Khazad-dûm. I will cycle this troll. I'm going to attack for 3. Our opponent will make a Rabblemaster. We will Reanimate Fury, kill their Rabblemaster. There it is. Yeah, we take 1. And we take 5 from the Fury, but we are miles ahead at that point. Let's reanimate the Fury here. 3 and 1, sure. No. Alright, they scooted up. We got the trophy. Excellent. A nice 5-0. All the theory I've been putting into Mono Black over the last few weeks, this was pretty good, I would say. We are validated with what we were working out here, and having access to things like Wasteland in your Mono Black sort of aggro deck feels really strong. Just felt like we had a handle on every matchup we played today. All the combo decks, we've got loads of tools. We've got a load of hand disruption. We've got all these horrible prisoner creatures. The sort of tempo decks, we can kind of get by them because they're trying to leverage things like Brainstorm, so our Bowmasters are good. Their Bowmasters are bad against us. The only thing they do is hit our Bowmasters, and they're an irrelevant threat. The Dauthi Voidwalker is very good at shutting down certain angles that our opponent can have. Yeah, this deck just felt really solid throughout the entire league. Let's talk about it. So, I think the Palantír showed itself to be really useful in this deck, and I do like having another 3-drop that we can put in. It's just a different angle. I think the numbers of Reanimate, Troll, and Grief are accurate. I think that's where we want to be. Obviously, slight confirmation bias because we did really well this league, so obviously we're going to think it's good. But there are things that didn't necessarily seem useful. This Urborg didn't really become something I was interested in. The only situations where Urborg is good is to turn Wastelands into black producing lands, and that didn't feel like an issue we had. So I would probably cut this Urborg. The next question is, we had a turn where the Hive of the Eye Tyrant came in tapped, and it cost us. It cost us a turn on being able to cast our Grief. Is that worth having 2 Hive of the Eye Tyrant for? In a format where we're not giving our opponent a lot of chances to use Wasteland. So against the Wasteland deck, we've just got this thing that says, you know, come and get us. Now against non-Wasteland decks, maybe that's okay. Castle Locthwain, I don't think this is ever really coming in tapped very much. So I'm not too worried about that. Maybe we need to strip out 1 Hive, 1 Castle in this Urborg. We could run something like a Cabal Pip. I don't think that's where I want to be. So if I was to play this at ELM, and by the time this video goes out, I might have already played it at ELM. But I think I would play this same deck with -1 Urborg, -1 Hive, -1 Castle Locthwain, and just lean into the swamps a little bit more. I think that's probably fine. I did like having the Dark Rituals rather than Chrome Moxes here. I don't like too much card disadvantage. Yeah, everything just came together quite nicely. The combination of Plague Engineers in the sideboard, Sheoldred Edicts in the main deck just means that you can always kind of answer a lot of things. I'm not sure about the Damping Sphere. I'm not sure if the matchups where this is important are going to be frequent enough. But, you know, it does stuff against Storm whilst also doing stuff against the One Ring combo decks. But Null Rod also does the same thing. I guess this is good against Cloud Post, whereas the other ones aren't. But there's not a million miles of difference between. I guess this is good against the High Tide combo decks, whereas Null Rod doesn't do anything. So there is that. Tourach we didn't really have any chance to use. This is to help versus like the slower Controllia decks, which I think is where we're going to probably come unstuck. You know, like your sort of Jeskai and Bank Control might be a bit problematic. But we do have good tools against them. So like a Dauthi Voidwalker in play shuts down their Uro lines completely. Orcish Bowmasters is really going to hurt their cantrips. Opposition Agent can do a little bit of work. And, you know, just griefing your opponent so they can't answer your Sheoldred is just a tried and true way of beating all these control decks too. So, and the Palantír is a nice one to have, but they do have prismatic endings. That's something to watch out for that can take them. But yeah, this deck feels really strong. This is some good testing. I like the surgical extractions. I've been more on, since Reanimate has kind of fallen by the wayside, I've been really up on surgical extraction as a piece of graveyard hate. And today it really showed. I think it's better than Fairy Macabre because you don't have to necessarily take specific card, like take 2 cards out of the graveyard isn't necessarily what you want to do. Because we're a deck that's got 8 hand disruption effects, we can really leverage surgical extraction as just exploiting the weak points of our opponent's deck. So if we're against the Epic Storm and we can hit their Burning Wish, for example, we can strip all their Burning Wishes and then they can't go and fetch Tendrils and then it's game over. Or against Doomsday like we did, we can just strip all the Doomsdays and that's it. Against Breakfast, we can strip all their illusionists. They can never combo, so they're stuck to playing a fair game, and their fair game is very poor compared to what we can bring. So it just feels like a really useful tool for stripping stuff out, as well as being able to interfere with graveyard combo decks. We do lose a little bit against Reanimator for doing that, but we already have 4 Dauthi Voidwalker in the main deck. And we've got Hand Disruption that can do some stuff. And Reanimate is just not that good right now. So I'm pretty happy where this is right now. If I was to take this to ELM, I'd make those changes that I mentioned before in the lands, and I'd consider doing something different with Damping Sphere. I think Cursed Totem makes sense. I imagine that the sort of Abzan Depths deck is probably going to be a bit unpleasant for us, because we do have Wastelands though, so we're not completely out of it, but like our Bowmasters and our Sheoldreds aren't going to really pull their weight there. The Opposition Agent though, that's definitely going to do some work in that matchup. And the Dauthi Voidwalker is probably going to be fine too. So maybe we'd be alright. But I like the Cursed Totem. It's just the Damping Spheres I think that I would consider changing. Tourach is fine as well. There are different options you can play instead of Tourach, but I don't think any of them are as good. So I think probably just... And we're not going to have any trouble casting Tourach. Sometimes you see these mono-black Helm decks where they've got a bunch of Ancient Tombs and stuff like that hanging around, and then the Tourach just can't be cast, or you just have to cast it to 2-1. It doesn't really have the impact you want. So I think this is the best mono black deck in Legacy right now. I think maybe you can tweak a few numbers. Like I said at the start, there's a few flex slots. So 1 Castle Locthwain, 1 Hive Eye Tyrant, an Urborg, the 4th Reanimate, the 3rd Sheoldred, Palantír, and the 4th Sheoldred Edict. Those are the flex slots. But I think this deck is really good right now. It has the perfect tools to deal with things in the meta, whilst also just having a really solid game plan that wins on its own. Alright, I hope you like this one, and I hope if I did decide to play ELM, it's gone well for me. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And if you're interested in the sort of content and deck building theory that I have going on, by all means check out my Patreon. I have a tier where I talk about deck building. It's mostly, well, at the moment I think it's all Dark Depths decks, but there might be some other stuff added on there later, but it's mainly sort of focused on that. But I'll probably talk about Mono Black a bit, since I've spent a bit of time working on this deck, and also some other versions that you're going to see in coming videos as well. I've got a spicy one lined up that might be quite interesting as well. I like the look of. And if you would like a donation deck, by all means get in touch via the Discord, or leave me a comment and we can sort it out for you as well. Alright, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.